Welcome. This is Professor Guerra Pujol from the University of Central Florida, and welcome again to the Legal and Ethical Environment of Business. In our previous two lectures, we saw a couple of theories of ethics, ways of looking at morality and right and wrong. We saw virtue ethics, and we saw consequentialism or utilitarian ethics. In this lecture, I want to look at Kantian ethics. I call this type of ethics Kantian ethics in honor of the great moral philosopher Immanuel Kant, K-A-N-T, who is considered the, if you will, intellectual father of this type of ethics. The fancy term is deontology or deontological ethics, but I think Kantian ethics is fine. The basic idea is that ethics needs to be based on duties, not consequences. To understand this, let's take a look at a reformulation of the trolley problem. This reformulation is called the fat man hypothetical, or I like to call it the bystander, to not engage in fat shaming and that kind of thing. But the idea is that there's a person, you have the same scenario. You have a trolley, and at the end of the trolley, we can throw all three Barbies at the end of the track. But you're now standing on a bridge, and standing next to you is a bystander, or the quote-unquote fat man. And so the idea here is that instead of pressing a lever, there's no lever, you're standing on a bridge. You can push the bystander onto the tracks to stop the trolley. If you push the bystander, of course, you sacrifice the bystander's life, but you do save the lives of the workers or the Barbie dolls in my version of the trolley problem. The thing is, though, here you can see the power of Kantian ethics, or this idea of moral duties. That is just plain wrong to sacrifice one person, in this case the innocent bystander standing on the bridge, in order to protect the lives of others. Even though the utilities are the same, the moral calculus is the same. You're saving X number of lives and risking Y number of lives. The basic idea here goes to Immanuel Kant. And I'm looking at my notes because I gotta tell you, dozens of books have been written about Kantian theory, but the basic idea is called the categorical imperative. And the idea here is that you can't qualify morality. Morality needs to be composed of these universals, such as treating people with respect, not as means, but as ends. This notion of human dignity. And notice, with Kantian ethics, it's not the consequences of your action that matters. It's, are you obeying a moral rule? Are you complying with your moral duties when you perform an action? I think the most easiest way, and really the essence of Kantian, and I may get some trouble with this, by the way, with my colleagues in the philosophy department, but I just like to think of this as just a fancy version of the idea of the golden rule, the idea that you want to treat people the way you want to be treated. And what I love about the golden rule, it's really an integral part of so many religious traditions, right? Including, for example, in the Gospel of Matthew, and you have Jesus telling us about the golden rule. But what Kant does, and the reason why Kantian ethics is so powerful, is that even if you're not a Christian, or even if you don't believe in God, you still have to comply with the categorical imperative, treat others the way you want to be treated, in order to be an ethical or moral person. So that's the power of the Kantian theory. It doesn't matter what your religion is, or even if you have any religion. So it's a very powerful theory. The two essential attributes of the golden rule or Kantian duties, categorical imperative, are consistency and reversibility. Reversibility is, you can see with the golden rule, right? You treat others the way you want to be treated and vice versa. And consistency is you don't make exceptions, right? You treat like cases alike. So it's a very powerful moral ideal. Now, I will say, just like with virtue ethics and consequentialism or utilitarian ethics, Kantian ethics is also subject to criticism, right? Because if it's if these categorical imperative, if these moral duties are without qualification, if they're universal, how do you make exceptions, right? And the most really dramatic example of this is, think of when Nazi Germany invaded neutral Belgium and neutral Holland and started rounding up, Jews and other minorities for prosecution, right? And a lot of brave people protected Jews and hid them from the Nazi stormtroopers and the police. And the most dramatic example of this, and I really get affected by this, is if you have the honor and privilege of visiting the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam, where you can visit the actual house and the hiding place of Anne Frank's family. And if you've read the diary of Anne Frank, that is one of the most important things that you must read to be a well-rounded individual. And I will tell you, right, when those stormtroopers were knocking on that door, if you take Kantian ethics so far as you have to tell them the truth, that you're hiding the people that they're trying to round up. But, that cannot be right. That cannot be consistent, right? It's a bad outcome because you're sacrificing the lives of others, and it's probably not a virtuous thing either. The long story short is that each of these theories, right, if you take them too far, or you can find examples that maybe you can push back the theories or refute the theories. None of these theories are perfect. What I want to do, however, in these 3 lectures is just introduce you to the 3 main theories of ethics so you have that basic formation. I'm going to do one more short lecture, and what I want to do is apply these theories to Face Mash. Thank you so much for your attention, and have a good day. Go Knights.